Let me quickly introduce Arnold Walz. He's been studying architecture in Stuttgart. He was involved here at IL. I think in the IL 34, Arnold, you've been also working and collaborating with yours together, and you've been here in general. I think you can tell more about that anyway. He's been involved in so many great complex buildings, and I remember we were sitting close to each other as you were working on the Mercedes Museum, for instance. And since several years, he founded Design to Production, and I'm really looking forward to hear your lecture. Thank you. The stage is yours.
Thank you, because I start feeling a little bit displaced in this academic family meeting where I'm not really part of. But and of course it's difficult as I'm not part of this family and to point out my relationship to Frei Otto. And so for me it's more the start point, you know, because Frei Otto and at the same time Horst Drittel, who run the Institute of Basics of Planning, they were the most influencing teachers here in Stuttgart. So with Frei Otto, I think I learned this whole relationship between form and material and construction and so on. And Horst Drittel simply taught us thinking. And that's so I start on the very beginning. Wait a minute, I have to see whether I get the right button. Okay. Well, first I thought I at least want to point out what my favorite projects in terms of Frei Otto are. And on this thing, the Diplomatic Club, I like this contrast between this more pressure building on the right side and this addition with the tent structure. I think this is, and this could also be a design thing which I would like to see more often. I think it's a nice thing to have. And the other one, yeah, well, Jan Knippers already mentioned this project. I mean, because we do so much talking about timber structures, and I will also introduce a timber structure. But when I saw this building, you know, and you see this little amount of timber he uses, and we could imagine how that would normally look like with a big laminated beam of, let's say, 1 meter height, and some other stuff. And I think this is because I try to think a lot about how can we develop these ideas of Frei Otto further on and translate them into our time. and because for me, form is an important issue in terms of sustainability. Because with form, we can use different materials, more light or not so much energy-consuming stuff and so on. So my first attempts with light white structures. So on my times here in this institute, I was there as a student, and I used this machine for a design I did. It was intended to be a small tent for performances, but I never made it to. It had about 12 meters in diameter and had a cupola on top of this foil and so on. So the only tent project I realized was we once made it to be allowed to do a party in the Schlossgarten, you know. And so I did this. They are just done from polyethylene, and I put them together with an iron and with the help of silicon paper, because the silicon paper holds the membrane to shrink while you put the heat on top, you know. So you can do that in 2 days or so, and put some cables in and some sticks, and it works. And the next thing is, you know, by being influenced with Frei Otto, this institute, all these new forms, apart from the rectangular stuff we did, we of course as students started playing around with this kind of world. And so on the left side, I made some pavilions for this youth culture week we had at that time. So they're in this dome with just some sticks from the nearby forest and a piece of fabric from the theater that was donated. And suddenly we find out, well, we forgot to do something for the kids, so we made a children cafe. So this is this little thing in the back with rebars and paper and scissors to cut the windows out and so. Then we occasionally, we did that 3 times. We had this seminar building with ice. It was organized by Marcel Kalberer and the Institute of Modeling and Drawing and so on. I forgot the name of the professor. So we went once to Poland and twice to Switzerland to build with ice. And the last thing, and this is typical because it showed me what I am different from some of my other people. There was this children's youth theater, and they needed a big dragon for their play in the streets of Stuttgart. And with that thing, I learned that I do everything up. So there were no drawings. I had an idea. I bought 1 kilometer of this, how do you call this, little wooden stripes on the edge of the floor and the wall, you know. So I went to this dealer and with my R4 Renault and said, well, I need some of these sticks, and said, okay, what do you do? Yeah, this one, I take 1 kilometer. So. So this is the wooden structure beyond, and then I had this inflatable skin. So there could 30 people go in. It was 12 meter long, 6 meter wide, and you can a little bit see the heads. So you could pop them out, and so the thing could even fight. So this, and yeah, but the problem was, I thought, okay, I did everything in my head. I knew all tools. I need exactly how many screws, blah, 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 and I had an idea about the process, how I will set up this thing, you know. And then the city gave me a workspace, and with the help of a few people from the Children's Youth Theater, we put that thing together. But I had a problem, because if I would go on like that, I would have to build everything by myself, which was not a good idea. So, yeah, and then there were some more projects, analog. So the first one, Mr. Schleich, you just mentioned, I worked about 2 years in the office with your father, and I did together with Jürgen Bradac, we built a big 1-to-100 model where we could simulate the driving of this roof of the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. But I just have to add to this, okay, that I mean, there were so many mistakes in the original design, so it was perfect for us to learn, you know, because we had all these discussions with the engineers and so on. The thing in the middle was the architect Ostertag. I think he did a building for the German mail thing, and they had this concrete shell, and so I did a very nice hanging model with just stables and chains and so on to get the form. It was just more to convince the client that he can't shape a shell just as he likes, you know, put this a little bit higher, this a little low. That's not really a useful thing. And the last one is when I worked with Bodo Rasch in his office, and together with Bernhard Gavenat, we developed this 10 by 10 meter umbrella with foldable arms. And after that, I went off this office of Bodo Rasch, and Jürgen Bradac continued that work to a very high degree. Then again, related to the Institute, I was involved together with Jos and Rainer Gräfe on the reconstruction of the hanging model for the Kolionia Church. For this Art Show Der Hang zum Gesamtkunstwerk von Harald Seemann in Zurich at that time, and it traveled through several other places. And then I tried to digitize that. So because, you know, coming from this dragon thing and the thing that I can't build, I started learning scripting and programming. And so I wrote, the first thing was, I developed a program where I could roughly generate these cupolas, and then with the help of a program Guido Ludischer gave me, I could calculate this into an equilibrium, so I got the real form. And my idea was that to do this kind of a reconstruction for the whole church, because then I would have the chance to simulate different structural things until I would meet the original form, which was shown in the photographs. But unfortunately, Rainer Gräfe in Zurich decided to do that on an analog way, so I stopped that project. And this I wanted to show because, you know, when you have teachers and at some point you think, I have to overcome that, what he does. Of course, you can't overcome Frei, but anyway, together with Victor Wilmer, we did this membrane, and the point is that it's only priestess in one direction. So because there was this statement, this membrane should always press priestess in two directions, so this, but there was no program to do the cutting patterns and everything, so I had to do a lot of programming work in order to generate all these cutting patterns, because the thread has always to go exactly in the direction of the priestess. So this was the in the International Automobile Exhibition in Frankfurt, designed by Bernhard Franken. I think it's about 80 meters long, and the distance between two of these things is 8 meters. It worked. Yeah, then I started being invited by these architects, and this time it's the Renzo Piano stuff, where I generated the form from the Cologne building and the Walz Center. And the last one, I think it's a very nice project, but you hardly see it because it's inside a block and it's hardly seen from outside, is this Foundation Pathé thing in Paris. Yeah, and I think a very big challenge was when I was talking to Ben van Bergel and Tobias Walliser, and I had the chance to work on the Mercedes Museum, which ended up that I was basically programming the whole building, all the concrete geometry and the facade. And in the end, we worked together with Zyplin, and we generated the cutting patterns for all these concrete forming sheets for the double curved surfaces of the interior spaces. And I mean, there it was really, I took that job without having the slightest idea how to do that. I just jumped in basically, and in the end I was kind of really important because shortly before they were actually wanted to starting building it, they changed the sizes of the cores, which meant the whole geometry was, and I think with analog or with normal planning methods, we never could have updated this building in such a short time. 2007, we founded Design to Production together with Fabian Scheurer, and now the part which we see now is actually put together by Fabian Scheurer. So he has done that presentation some other times, because I think he is much cleverer in order to define what we're actually doing in transaction. Here you can see some of the projects we did all, and now meanwhile it's around 100 of them we did all in all these years. So it's 100% digital, it's 100% prefabricated and non-standard. Design to Production. Wait a minute, I have to. So I want to start to give a little introduction, short introduction to our company. As you see, the name is Program. We neither do design, nor do we do production. So it's only the two in the middle. And what we actually do is consulting and planning services that help materialize design ideas by means of digital tools and processes. That's our job. As well as in the opposite direction. So with our experience from which we had with production issues, we can inform the planners to consider certain things in order to not run into unnecessary problems in the end. So we speak design and we speak production, and we communicate to both sides on eye level or translate simultaneously. Our work is based on a digital model. And we like to sit between of all chairs. So where we can, but there we can consolidate and store the information gathered from all involved parties, and then generate and extract information for all involved parties. If you like. In parallel to gradually building up the digital model needed for production, we try to add some more value to the process. Yeah. So just I have a minute, but so we can hunt through. I choose this project because it's a grid shell, but as you see, it's very different from what Frei Otto did with the, I think the cross sections of these beams might be 50 to 100 times more than the cross sections of the members in, but it's a building. I mean, it's 220 meters long, it's 25 meter high, and we, so that's our way of working. We have a very simple model. We have a grid, we have a surface which defines the shape, and we have the axis of the beams. And from that, we generate 4,600 digitally beam segments, which can be produced digitally. As you can see here, it was produced by Blumer Lehmann in Switzerland. Then we have 2,800 individual facade elements of 10 different types. So they are opaque ones, ETF, glass, photovoltaic, and operable, so open things. We had to design special ways how to solve the problem that you have to put together these things in a curved surface where the angle on one side is different than on the other side. And this is how it looks so that it works. And we had to make sure that all the installation finds place. So everything is or arranged. So when the people come to the site, drilling machines and saws and cutting machines were not allowed. So this is how it's integrated. Yeah, and then we had to generate 2,800 individual facade elements, which are pre-assembled from 65,000 individual parts. And that is what comes out. So let's rush through the rest of the thing. So we automatically create detailed models from abstract models. This is what we need. We have the minimum is the parametric code. And from that code, you can generate all these other data and share it with the people. And a very big thing is avoid mistakes instead of trying to find mistakes. So our error rate is 0.14%. The German construction industry had in the 2019 15%. Meanwhile, it's, I think, 12 or so. It's still much too high. And this is a picture we show since 20 years. Shows that the work productivity in the construction industry hasn't raised since 20 years. So while the rest of the industry has raised their productivity around 50% in that time, in an average, you know. So again, this is, I will rush through that. One thing I want to do, remember this right detail here? It's the interior structure of this facade element. It's steel pieces, and we not only did the design for that. I didn't design the facade, but I did. I found a way to model this, but we also do production design. So we really tell the company this is how it has to be done, and if they wouldn't do, I would be out of the project. So and then just for the rest, since 12 years we try to concentrate on normal buildings. So and we are meanwhile we are able to automatically generate detailed wall elements for production, which we did for a whole building in Switzerland in Winterthur. And so and this is my hobby. This is the last that I am working on a digital planning to production process where we can put in all these experience we made with all our projects. Thank you very much.